You train for a job, you go to university for a job, and you've got all this knowledge, okay, that is part of the context when you make a decision. So how do we translate this for AI? And I think this level of context, the experience, is kind of the next frontier in a bit.
Welcome to It's About Data, episode 55. We're joined by Jean-Georges Perrin to discuss AI-ready data. This episode was recorded at Data Day, Texas 2026.
So Jean-Georges, thank you for being here. Great to meet with you here at Data Day, Texas. Tell us a bit about yourself. I mean, you have this very fascinating background, both in terms of moving through tech and also moving geographically.
Well, Matt, Tony, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great, and it's great to be here in person in Austin. So I moved to the US about 10 years ago. I was an entrepreneur in France, and often an entrepreneur, even if it's a French term, they're not always loved over there. So I moved here, got with my green card, and the good thing about when you get a green card is you don't get a job. So you find your own job here. So I was a consultant for a while, then went to large companies like PayPal, Expedia, Advance Auto Parts, and I recently joined Actin, where I'm working more on data and AI strategy.
Right.
And it's just a very nice time to be in that field. When did you join Actin? Was it post-ChatGPT or pre-ChatGPT?
Oh, it's actually paused. It's actually 6 months ago.
Really?
So
you're hedging already.
Yeah, so we were discussing a bit before we kicked off this recording that you wanted to talk about AI-ready data.
Yeah, so I kind of realized ChatGPT was a kind of an inflection point, or a tipping point for our industry, and I think that at the very beginning we didn't realize that not we, but the collective us didn't realize there was a link between data and AI. Okay, and I think that was like 2023, maybe a bit of 2024, and really right now what we're looking at is people are now get that there's a strong link. Okay, so you see more investment as well in the data field, but what we still don't understand is, first, I think we there's always this hallucination and this imperfect result from AI, but I think that a lot of people were thinking that it was mostly due to data quality, and I think that's where where I stand now is more that it was not only data quality. Of course, you need good data, but it's more than that. And what is more than that? That is why I'm kind of trying to have a reflection, not also myself in my bathroom, right, on what is AI-ready data. So we just had a discussion this morning about it with 25 people. Different opinions. It was, it's Austin, so it's a little weird. But.
Actually, I think it was a very good sort of, raison d'être to speak your language.
Thank you.
Which is, well, bien. But anyways, that there were certain, that today we could get around to things that didn't quite make the agenda yesterday. And for me, a big question is really what makes data AI ready? I mean, we've been thinking about other aspects about it in terms of governing data for AI, but what makes data AI ready?
So what I was thinking before coming here is the context has become a big part. Okay, and there's actually two types of context, and I'm started reading a paper about context and things like that. So maybe there's a meta context, something. But still there's a context. There's a technical context which you can get from the metadata or data contract. And so there is this technical, but there's also all the knowledge we've acquired. Okay, so and it's like, okay, you train for a job, you go to university for a job, and you've got all this knowledge. Okay, that is part of the context when you make a decision. So how do we translate this for AI? And I think this level of context, the experience, is kind of the next frontier in a bit. And it's not only what we've learned, but also what are the business decisions you've been making? What is the business history? What are the policies you're applying in the company about that? So how do we? And we don't have to have this super structured, okay? Because LLMs, for example, are pretty good at handling this in an unstructured way. But I think this is where we start to think about that.
Let me give you an initial sort of knee-jerk reaction. I think it's all well and good that that it's great to. I mean, like we're really starting this basically really deal with context in its very deepest form, and it's actually something which, Sanjeev basically has some Sanjeev Mohan, a friend of our podcast, has been very vocal about that. We're going to be grappling, and struggling with this concept. What I'm wondering is initially when we start going into looking at all the business decisions, all that type of stuff, for the moment, as we're just trying to get a handle on this, are we potentially biting off more than we can chew?
Well, so I think we need to be able to refine it. Okay, so we're still at. I still think we're early stage in this.
That's why I was asking.
In this thinking, but I think as well that there's also a negative context. Okay, so see, that's a bit where the discussion this morning showed up, is that, okay, we've got this kind of positive context, which is all those rules, all those things, and we've got to limit it. But there's also the negative one, which is what you should not expect, what you should not do, what you should not, if you're talking to an LLM, because in this, we were not talking only about Gen AI, but also AI as...
Could we call those rules?
I think so. I think we could call that rules, but maybe they're classified differently.
Right. No, the reason why I'm asking that is that I think this is the challenge that the whole field is facing right now, is that maybe the best way, I'm definitely a proponent of like the baby steps idea, and which is basically, grab onto concepts that we have some understanding of. Now, admittedly, yes, it can be argued that those concepts might be limiting ourselves, but to get us started.
Well, no, I think we need to get started, and I'm a big proponent of agility. Okay, so and iteration. Okay, so this is something which in data seems to be like sometimes revolutionary to talk about iteration of stuff, but I think this is typically we need to do this baby step, validate, continue. Okay, complete PDCA. Okay, so nothing new. Okay, PDCA was 50s. so we just need to get there.
Right.
So, but I like the rules.
Let's talk about a bit about information retrieval, and in some sense, databases have always been about information retrieval.
Yeah.
But to me, for example, we had Lakshmanan on recently, who co-wrote a book called Generative AI Design Patterns, and a lot of it is about how you retrieve the data that's actually relevant, and things like, okay, how do you tag it? Because you don't want to treat an entry from a research paper the same way you treat some comment on Reddit when you're retrieving information, right? You want to have a prioritization of information, correct information. Talk in general about that.
I think that's bringing to the unstructured data world. Okay.
Yeah.
And I still honestly struggle a little bit with it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got some way, you've got some credibility, you've got. So maybe there's something like like Google did with the PageRank, okay?
Yeah.
So maybe there's something like that we could also find. We could also work. Or maybe one thing I think it is not is put everything in a graph. Okay? Everybody seems to be wanting to put everything in a graph.
Yeah.
So I value knowledge graphs. Okay, right. I think they can have tremendous value. I don't think that everything in a graph is a solution. So.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, we had Sudhir Hosby on recently for an episode we just released, and he was saying kind of the same thing. He's like, look, put the graph stuff in your graph database, but then link it to your relational database, just like you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, there was some ideas about the provenance of data also, like your sources, okay?
Right.
And I think that's also something I've been working a lot. Okay, so I'm not shifting, but I think I'm evolving towards AI-ready data. But I've been working a lot on data construction, data products, and I think that it's kind of a, we're talking about baby steps. I think that maybe AI-ready data is the next step.
Well, let me take this a step back, because you were talking about data products, either yesterday or today, Do you see do you see data products as being something that's necessary to make data AI ready, or is it just a whole separate thing? Does it have to be a product to be AI ready data?
It may not have to be a product, but
Okay.
what we were also thinking as part of this reflection group this morning, and something is AI ready data something like a binary switch, okay?
Right.
Or is it a maturity level? And if it's a maturity level, at some point, it should be a data product. Okay?
Right.
And I think the data product is a perfect container to be able to add all this context information we want to have.
Sure.
And then going back, okay, so the idea of how I view data products is that you've got the data products. You can imagine them as nodes as your graph.
Yeah.
And then the data contracts as your vectors. Okay, so basically you navigate from one data product to another via the data contract.
Right.
So you actually have all this provenance, you all have all this context that is enriching as you go. Okay, and that's why that's a little bit where I'm going.
Can I ask one other thing, which is I'm thinking like sort of like bringing the baby steps of the trail of breadcrumbs is provenance and lineage.
Yeah.
Maybe just to kind of keep this simple, kind of like the KISS
Yeah.
principle. Should we start with that and then start to think about this? Because I'm just afraid that trying to tackle this problem is kind of like we may risk boiling the ocean.
Oh no, I'm with you, and I'm involved with the Bitol project with the Linux Foundation, and the idea is to try to normalize and to standardize data contracts, data products, and maybe more at some point, but it's also like we don't want to force people to do everything at once. Okay, so back to what I was saying about iterations. When you do a data contract, the minimum requirement. When you do a data product, what's the minimum requirement? That was my talk yesterday, and then you enrich it based on what you want. Everybody's talking about lineage or provenance, but the thing is, who really needs it?
Okay. Your talk yesterday was data products in 30 minutes or less.
Yes, I did. We did 25 minutes. We did actually, so. And that was a lot of big blah blah before. So and we faster than that.
So let me ask you, let's take the original. We talked before we started recording about data products 1.0, data products 2.0 is going to be AI ready data. If we're to pick one ingredient that we need to add to 1.0 to get to 2.0, what is the main focus of that new ingredient?
I think that's where the context is. How do we model this context? Okay, so what is it? Is it rules? Is it a semantic layer? Which no, it's not.
Okay, that was an editorial comment.
So there's what is it? How do we materialize this context? And probably trying to have a standard way, because you've got to be able to exchange context and things like that. It's.
Let me ask you something again, and it sounds like this will push you slightly outside your comfort zone, but I think you might have some ideas. Should unstructured data also be a data product, or does it not fit into that?
Oh no,
paradigm?
it does. It does.
Okay.
It does. That's where my comfort level is.
Okay, good, perfect.
No, I think it does. And it's fun. It's really interesting because we've got one of our guy in the technical steering committee of Bitol, who is an information architect. Okay, so when you talk to him, Gene, is really like well, you guys are all talking about relational data, but I'm coming from the information side. Okay, so he's bringing this expertise to how do we actually. So when we, for example, in ODCS, Open Data Contract Standard, when we went from V2 to V3. We restructured the schema so that it's actually compatible with unstructured data.
Oh, that's a huge leap. I mean, that is not easy to do.
But when you think about unstructured data, the idea is to be able to capture a lot of the metadata that is associated to that. So that's the approach to it.
Unstructured is a whole separate.
Oh my God!
Unto itself, and things which we're only just really getting our arms around.
Yeah, I think we should do unstructured data access or something.
We'll do unstructured data access. Let's close that. But anyway, Jean-Georges, any sort of concluding thoughts? And keep in mind that purpose of our shows is really to open the conversation.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the things that you'd like to leave the audience in terms of thinking about?
Well, join Bitol. Okay, so
Okay.
join our Linux Foundation project.
Yeah.
We are mostly a Slack community. It's bitol.io. You'll find the link at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's very friendly. It's I've been doing community work for a long time, and a lot of time people are just bitching and with one another. We've got nothing like that. It's very respectful. It's very it's very. A lot of people are doing active listening on things, and we're getting somewhere. Okay, we're in 3 years. So I've just been re-elected as a chair of the TSC for the third year. But basically, in our 2 years of operation, we did a major release of Open Data Contract Standard. We released Open Data Product Standard, and and we're climbing the food chain into the Linux Foundation. Yeah, no, it's actually pretty positive. So come join us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tony. Thank Matt.
Take care. Thank you so much.